Hello, and welcome to episode 149 of the Nintendo Fun Club podcast. Even if it is a week or two late, this is still a podcast about Nintendo and about fun. I'm still Ryan. With me, as always, is still John. Hi, John.
Still John. Good morning.
Yeah, cool. You're like really doubling down on your commitment to the show with the Mario hat.
Well, I didn't
letting everyone know that even though we're late, this is still the Nintendo Fun Club podcast that you and I do.
Yeah, that's true. And even though I didn't double down on my, or actually, as a result of the fact that I didn't double down on my commitment to take a shower this morning, my hair was all crazy. So, but I thought, let's go. We got to do this. So just threw on the Mario hat and let's make it happen.
Yeah, well, let's make it happen indeed. Okay, so a few things we're going to talk about this episode. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Indies Showcase, like a little Nindies Direct that happened. We are going to talk about some Sonic Mania. If you're watching on the video feed, I am wearing my Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Sonic Tuesday promotional shirt.
You gotta stand up and do that like awkward, like half standing up,
like half kneeling. All right, I will lean over into
pop filter.
my webcam.
There we go. Yeah, your pop filter was covering that.
Okay, yeah.
The gyration is a bonus. Good, cool.
That was just me trying to steady myself to keep from falling. Yeah, so that's happening. And then, John, you have played pretty much probably the two most anticipated games of anyone listening to this show. Most likely.
Yeah, I went
Mario
to the
Odyssey and Samus Returns.
Yeah, I went to the Nintendo World Championship qualifying event in Chicago last week, or just outside of Chicago, and I was able to play both of them for maybe 10 minutes or something, and it was pretty sweet.
Cool, and you won, and you're now the Nintendo World Champion of the world.
Yeah,
and that's why we were.
Well, no, you're
late.
No, you're getting ahead of yourself there.
Okay.
I won my qualifying event, and Nintendo is flying me out to New York City for an all-expenses paid trip to New York for the actual Nintendo World Championships final round. That hasn't happened yet. So I just won my qualifying event in Chicago.
That didn't happen, though.
No, of course not. No, sorry.
No.
I just
okay. I still
You looked confused. Like I realized halfway through you were like maybe believing me, and no, my time was terrible.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, I'm still going to refer to you as the Nintendo World Champion from here on out.
I like it. That's fine with me. I like it.
I think that gives us our show some more cred, some credibility. Shows that we're true hardcore gamers that are good at video games, because that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. No, it's not actually. No one cares. So, let's go ahead and start talking about this Nindies Showcase. So, I mean, we're not going to run through all the episodes or all the games. If you do want a run through of everything that was there, I would say either watch the Nindies Direct, click the Nintendo World Report link in our show notes that has like a little breakdown of what each game is, or listen to the new episode in Nintendo Voice Chat, which they kind of broke down some impressions of each one of the games there, and they've actually played a bunch of them. So, but I just want to talk highlights. For you, John, what were some of the highlights of this little Nindie Direct?
Well, I think probably the biggest highlight for me was No More Heroes Travis Strikes Back, which was also the last announcement. So kind of going backwards here, but I enjoy No More Heroes. I played and finished both games. I liked the second one actually quite a bit more than the first one. But neither was totally my thing, I guess you'd say. Like, I'm not a big like super heavy action based sort of, you know, guy. Like that's not really my thing most of the time. Or I guess I should say like it's sort of a 3D brawler to a certain extent. Like it's just like waves and waves of enemies. That's what I'm really not usually super into. But the game had so much character and stuff that I did enjoy both of them for that reason. Could have done with less excessive like cursing and violence, but that's part of what
The
game
innuendos were a bit much at
yeah,
times as well. It was
yeah, or sometimes like Travis speaks like with what I would, you know, kind of call like that Kevin Smith style dialogue where like you're inserting the F word every like third word, and it gets to a point where it's like no human being has ever talked like this. Like this is so much swearing that it's just like way overkill. But anyway, I don't know why I bring these minor complaints with the game up now, but the point is that I like them and I'm excited about that kind of sort of thing coming back here on the Switch, both because I think it'll be fun and I'm looking forward to it, and I like Suda's craziness, but also because it's just like it's fun now that like the Wii era is nostalgic, you know what I mean, and the Wii era is like retro almost, you know. So it's been 10 years since No More Heroes on the Wii, and it's like how a few years ago we felt about N64 and GameCube games, you know. It's like that's like from another era now, you know. So so it's just cool to see something like that coming back, and the Wii was such a special time that I think it's fun to bring Wii kind of specific franchises back. So
yeah, totally. I'm kind of with you, even though I'm more of a like hack and slash brawler fan than you. I did kind of like, as much as I liked the two new No More Heroes games, I thought a lot of the gameplay was kind of a chore to get through. But I did get through it just because I was, you know, I wanted to see what was around the next corner. I wanted to see what the next like cutscene was, or what the next like mini game was. And I thought that was the coolest stuff. Like it wasn't like the brawler combat in No More Heroes. Like it wasn't like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta good. Like it was serviceable, like it was fine, but it wasn't like super engaging, even as, you know, a fan of like those style of games. So for me, it was all about, and same with like the open world exploration, especially in the first game. Like it was so like, I just want to get through this so I can get to the next thing. But yeah, what I was really into was just all like the surprises and the weirdness in those games. And I feel like maybe this is going to be kind of the No More Heroes game for us, because it's like, it kind of seems like they're really going all in on like the like polishing the mini game aspects of it, because you're kind of like jumping into these different like indie worlds, like indie game worlds. Like there's like a Hotline Miami inspired thing, and like there's some like Shovel Knight stuff, I guess, in some form. I don't know what any of this stuff like looks like or how it's going to work in the game, but I really like the idea of just like these weird like Suda takes on indie games, especially like good ones. And like I want it to be kind of different. I don't really need like, you know, just exactly like the same thing that the first two games, because even between the first two games, like there's a lot of differences. Like the second game was like fairly different than the first. So I'm ready for them to just like go all in, make it weird, make it different, just have a lot of variety, a lot of weirdness.
Well,
and that's what I want.
Yeah, I agree. The second game, one of the reasons it was, you know, a lot better in my mind was the fact that it did emphasize those mini games. It kind of took out the whole like open world, you know, Grand Theft Auto inspired thing that the first game had, which I didn't think really worked all that well. And like the 8-bit mini games were awesome. That the trailer for No More Heroes 3, with him, kind of playing like Hotline Miami and stuff. That's what he was playing, right? That was cool, and it made you feel like, oh man, it's almost like Captain N here, like he's gonna like get sucked into different worlds, like through the TV or something, or I mean that didn't happen in the trailer, but it's just like the vibe I was getting, like, oh, maybe like each level or something is gonna be a different like mini game type thing, or a different like inspired by some other indie game type thing. I really don't know what's going on with this game. I don't know if you know more than I do or not, but I feel like there were some comments from Suda51 this weekend that were like, oh yeah, the indie collaborations are not really like gameplay. So I don't know what the deal is. Like, I don't know what the indie collaborations are. Like, if it's, I don't know. So I'm hoping that it's more along the lines of what you were suggesting there, but I feel like they really haven't said much unless I didn't see something that you did.
Yeah, and like the interviews have been pretty weird with him, as Suda interviews typically are, where you don't really ever get a straight answer. And I haven't been following super closely and reading everything super closely, but I did see like one interview where they asked, like, oh, is this still going to be the same kind of gameplay that, people who like the first games will enjoy, like, the hack and slash stuff? And he was like, yeah, we're still going to have that in there. But I don't know. So I hope this is just, I kind of just want to roll in this game, not really knowing what the deal is with it. And having it kind of subvert my expectations, whatever my expectations are, one way or another, because I think that's the fun of this series.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I guess just to bring it back to my initial thoughts on it or whatever when we first started this conversation, I think I'm just down for like his kind of crazy flavor of gameplay presentation or game presentation, you know what I mean? And just like whatever that is, I'll go along with it, because those first two games, it wasn't about like what great games they were, or even like like you said, they're pretty different in a lot of ways. It's like No More Heroes, that whole universe. Plus I like wrestling now, which I really wasn't into wrestling at the time, so
yeah,
that'll be more fun too. So yeah, I don't know, I definitely like, the first two games are not perfect, and they're not perfect for me, but I really like them for, some of the reasons we've mentioned. So I'm just like definitely gonna give this one a try, and I'm just excited for it, whatever it is, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the big one for this, but there are a few other cool looking games, and there's a few that I'm not really going to mention because like I feel like I could go either way on, that I'm just sort of like waiting for reviews. But one thing that I know I am going to love is Shovel Knight, King of Cards, which is the final expansion to the Shovel Knight games. As I've said on this podcast multiple times, I mean, we've been talking about Shovel Knight for years. We both love it dearly. Spectre of Torment, I played through that on Switch earlier this year. It's probably in my top 3 games I've played on Switch. I think it is just amazing. So whatever King of Cards is, I will most likely love it. And I'm just super excited for more Shovel Knight, and I guess the end of Shovel Knight, and then whatever Yacht Club Games decides to do next.
Yeah, definitely. And I need to go get Shovel Knight for Switch, because after playing Sonic Mania on Switch, using the Joy-Con and a couple other, like 2D side-scrolling things, like I didn't get it initially because I thought this controller is just really probably not going to work for a game like that. And I'm sure, obviously it's not the best input method for Shovel Knight, but the left Joy-Con is better for 2D stuff than I expected it would be. So I feel like I could probably hang with some Shovel Knight on the Switch, and
Oh yeah.
I'd be excited to give it a shot, because between this one and the last expansion, I haven't played either of those. I played some of the first one, which we've talked about, but and not my total fave. But
yeah,
so much Shovel Knight that I definitely need to play. So
yeah, and it looks gorgeous on the Switch screen as well. Like that's the way to play it. I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and the way to have the game too, I think, for like going forward, because as we have discussed and will continue to discuss, like having a game on the Switch is like, you've reached the highest possible level. You know what I mean? Like, I guess unless it's like super graphically intensive, otherwise, like, what more could you want? You can play it at home, you can play it on the go. It's like kind of like the perfect place to have a game, especially if it's something like Shovel Knight, where it's like, yeah, like it doesn't take you forever to play. It's not a super long game, but you're going to come back to it every year or two. Like, it's great to have it on something like the Switch. So
definitely. And the expansion King of Cards comes to Switch first.
Oh, right.
As well. Cool. So yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, buy that treasure trove.
And are you interested in the new 3-pack of Shovel Knight amiibo as well?
Absolutely. I will definitely be buying these. That was cool. That was actually announced separately. It was at, I think, like PAX or something. Yeah, or maybe it was like some other event. I don't know. I can't keep up with all this. But anyways, a Shovel Knight amiibo 3-pack. You're getting Plague Knight, Spectre Knight, and King Knight. And yeah, these are definitely going into my collection.
Yeah, those are the 3 expansions, right? Those 3 knights are
yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, I am super embarrassed to admit that I don't have a Shovel Knight amiibo yet. That's like one of the greatest amiibo, and I've never bought it.
My God.
I see it all the time too. It's always on shelves. So
yeah,
it's real kind of dumb that I don't have one.
Well, need to make sure you get that.
I know. There's actually a lot of great Shovel Knight merch, which I'd love to get. There's like plushies and cool T-shirts.
I know. I've looked. I think over at Fangamer they have a
lot of good stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited too about Kentucky Route Zero. I don't. That's like the game that's been around for a while on PC. I think it was episodic or is episodic. And I don't know too much about it, except for that I've just heard good things over the last few years. And I don't play a ton of PC games, but that's like one of the handful of PC games that I've kind of had like, in the on the back, like potential. Yeah, maybe I should grab that on Steam at some point. And I've never done it, but again, I have, it's going to be like, if I'm going to get it, like the Switch would be the perfect place to have it. So I'm totally excited to. That'll be like the extra kind of push I need to go ahead and grab that game.
Sure. Yeah, I know nothing about that game, but I've heard just people say like the story is so good, and like it is episodic, and people like so eagerly anticipate like each episode. I don't even know what even the premise is or what a character looks like or anything, but yeah, I'm definitely curious, if it hits Switch and it's a good port at the right price, maybe that would be worth diving in to see what all the fuss is about.
Wasn't it called like, I think they call it like the TV edition or something like that? Like, I don't know. It's got,
because it's coming to like PS4 and Xbox One as well.
Right. So, but it sounds like it's like an expanded or at least updated kind of version of the game too. So, probably, I would assume maybe that's probably coming to Switch or PC as well. So it's probably just kind of like the newer and best version of the game, but
possibly.
Yeah.
Golf Story,
yes.
Sounding pretty awesome. This game is like, they keep like announcing more features to it. So I'm actually getting kind of nervous because of like feature creep. Where they're like, now there's like drone flights and mini golf, and like they're talking about like how expansive the story is, and I'm like, okay, well, hopefully, like I just wanted a like golf game with like leveling up mechanics. um, so like when they said golf RPG, I was like, oh, cool. But you know, they're adding all this stuff, and that's cool. I hope like the core golf is good, and the RPG stuff makes sense in it. But I'm still excited. But this comes out this month, apparently.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm super curious about this one.
I am too, because it's like when it was announced, or when they first I think they just sort of showed a few glimpses of it somewhere, like months ago, and people lost their minds. They were so excited. And I was thinking, you know, maybe like a golf game with some light RPG / Harvest Moon type Animal Crossing elements. But the more I see of it, it kind of looks more like, I don't know, a Harvest Moon Animal Crossing type game with light golf elements, you know? So I don't know, like we'll see where it lands on that ratio. But if it's like a 30-hour, you know, build up a world and, you know, travel all over and like stuff like that, like type game with a little bit of golf thrown in, that's cool. But, you know, I don't know. I was kind of hoping for some classic like golf.
Yeah,
you know?
I just, like I said, I just want golf with like leveling up and like upgrading your clubs and like stat bars and stuff. So I hope they don't lose the quality of the golf game in there, because you know we don't have a Mario Golf or anything on Switch yet. And again, like console for it, like we both played a bunch of Neo Turf Masters.
I was gonna say, we don't need any other golf games.
Yeah, which is the best golf game. But you know, I'd also like I want Neo Turf Masters with like grinding, basically. That's my dream game. Okay, well, we'll find out about Golf Story soon. I'm hoping for the best. But anything else that really caught your attention here?
No, not really. I mean, what was it? Yono and the Celestial Elephant. Looked okay. I mean, I shouldn't say looked okay. It looked interesting. Like, could be great. But yeah, that one I was interested in. Floor Kids as well, which is like the breakdancing type game.
Kid Koala music. Who I've become like a big fan of after watching Edgar Wright's Baby Driver recently. And we have the soundtrack on vinyl. So I've been appreciating Kid Koala a bit more these days. So
cool.
that has me interested. But it's always like I'm always so cautiously optimistic about, you know, not indie games, but like new IPs in general. I don't care if it's from an indie developer team of 2 people or from like Activision or whatever, where I'm like, okay, well, this looks like a cool video game, but I don't know if it's going to be for me, kind of thing. So like, I'm really looking forward to, you know, some of these games coming out and like reading the reviews and seeing how people react to them. But, I don't know. It's so hard to say because you never know if it's actually going to click with you.
Well, Ryan, you are what's wrong with video games. You know that? Like,
because I don't.
You're like, oh, a new IP. I don't know. Just give me like, you know.
Well, when video games
installment.
cost, yeah. Well, when video games cost $20 to $60 and take 40 hours of your time,
yeah.
That's but if something gets good reviews and it looks interesting to me, I grab it.
Most years I play like one Mario, one Metroid, and one Zelda game. So I'm just kidding. I can't really can't really fault you there. So
all right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about one Mario, one Metroid game, and then a Sonic game that's the same as 25 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, last weekend, last Sunday, I went to the Nintendo World Championships qualifying event in Chicago, actually Evanston, which is just north of Chicago. And you know, they did one of these, or they're still doing some, I think, this weekend, or maybe they just finished yesterday. But anyway, 8 qualifying events throughout the country. So lucky to live near Chicago, which was one of those 8 cities. And it was a 2-day event at Best Buy. It's pretty cool. You just show up and get in line. And what we were doing to, potentially qualify for the Nintendo World Championships was doing Mario Kart 7 on 3DS, doing time trials on Mario Kart 7 on 3DS. So I haven't played that game in years. I didn't practice even one lap before going. So, but I'm not a super good gamer dude. So I didn't, I knew that I'd have no chance, and I just really wanted to go play those demos. But it was cool to compete nonetheless. So basically how the event worked is you go into Best Buy, and if you are, Ryan, I know you've been to a bunch of Best Buys, and you go there often, so you're familiar, but they have, like, I don't know if they really use them as much anymore, but they have something I think is called like the Magnolia Room at Best Buy, which was a home theater type room or whatever. So they had the event going on back there in the Magnolia Room, basically.
Wow.
But it was
I never get invited back there. That's like way out of my price range when I go to Best Buy.
You need to be a guy who buys better home theater gear, and then maybe you would. But yeah, so it was back there, and it was cool because it was almost like, I've never been to E3, but it was almost like going into like a demo room or whatever at an event like that or something.
BCD behind closed doors.
Nah, I wouldn't go that far, but it was just like,
as the podcasters say.
Yeah, but I mean, after all of the other Best Buy events I'd been to, because they've done, I think, 3 other years, they've done some kind of promotional event with Nintendo, usually around E3. And they were always just like out in the electronics section. You know what I mean? So you're just like standing next to like the Xbox games playing, like, in bright lights and all that. So doing it in the Magnolia Room, the way they did it, they could have more like atmospheric type lighting and stuff. It was just cool. You know what I mean? You go into this room to compete and stuff. So it was definitely cool. Mario was there, although he was on what seemed to be like a 2-hour break, because we saw him when we first showed up. And then I was excited to get my picture with him, but he was nowhere to be found after that. And they were like, "Oh yeah, well he'll be back. He'll be back." So
he just went to go get some cigarettes.
Oh yeah. I was just laughing. I saw Kevin's comment about the champagne room, so had to laugh there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it was cool. So first thing we did was compete. I went with our friend Rich, who I think listens to the show regularly. So
we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun to go with them, little road trip. And anyway, we both went in to compete, and did our time trials on Mario Kart 7. The high score at the time that I was there was like, for 3 laps, was 1 minute and 15 seconds, and my time was like 1 minute and 31 seconds. So nowhere close. 5 seconds off each lap, basically. So not even close, but. I got to play on the new 2DS XL. That's the system they were using for the time trials. So
nice. What did you think of that in your hands?
It felt good. Like my big thing was it felt light and thin, which I thought felt nice. So we're talking like a total of 3 minutes of playtime here. So yeah. And I was concentrated on being the winner I've always known myself to be. So I wasn't really thinking about the construction of the system too much, but I did like my time with it. You have transitioned full time to new 2DS XL, right?
Yeah. I love it. I love it for 3DS games. I'm I'm excited to have a 3DS game to play on it. Coming up with Metroid, because I'm just like, I'm looking at like my backlog, and 3DS is a system it's weird, because I feel like I've actually played pretty much every game I want to play on the 3DS, just because it's been my primary gaming device since it launched. So like, I'm like, with like PS4, Xbox One, like I will never play all the games that I've heard are good on those systems. I will never get around to it. But with 3DS, I'm like, yeah, I've kind of played everything at this point. So I'm ready for for Metroid, and then stuff like Etrian and Odyssey in the future.
Yeah, and I should mention too, while we're talking about 3DS and our happy lives together with the 3DS over the past 6 years or whatever it's been. I was also excited to go to this event because I was missing two pink puzzle pieces, I should say. And I thought, with all these Nintendo fans at the event, good chance I'd be able to fill those in, which I did. I got both of my my two pink puzzle pieces. So I thought I would have a complete set of puzzle pieces when I left that day. But they went ahead and released another panel of the 3DS puzzle pieces, which I just thought that was done at this point. But I
didn't even know that. What is it for?
I can't remember what game it is, but I was like, this game gets a puzzle. It's like, I don't even think it was a first party Nintendo game.
Is it like Monster Hunter Stories?
No.
Maybe? No?
Nope.
Okay. Wow.
I don't remember. I'm sorry. And my 3DS is dead, so I can't power it on to
wow.
check.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Nintendo Fun Club podcast, your source for no information about Nintendo whatsoever. We literally know nothing.
It's fairly accurate. So anyway, but there's no pink puzzle pieces in this new panel. So basically, yeah. Unless I put out a panel with more pink pieces, I have achieved complete 3DS Street Pass puzzle piece collection. Because I can always just use play coins, and I have, of course, 300 of those sitting on my system. So we're good to go on that. But anyway, went in, did the time trial. Did not do well. Did receive a free poster for playing the demo, which is a Mario Kart Mario Kart 7 poster, which is weird, but it's Nintendo World Championships themed. There's pictures of that on the blog. I haven't put it up yet because I need to get a frame for it and the other posters I received that day. But yeah, so that was cool for sure. The posters are awesome too. They're like really like nice heavyweight cardstock, and they've got this like gold foil embossed Nintendo World Championships logo on the bottom. Really very nice giveaway. So that was cool. And it's funny because they advertise it like, come on out to the Nintendo World Championships because you can get a pin, a My Nintendo pin, and I got one of those too, and that's nice. But I mean, if they had said you're going to get 3 like high quality, really nice posters if you come to this thing, that would have been more of an incentive than the pin, I think. So, but yeah, it was cool. So we did that, and then you exit that room, and then you get into the demo line. And that was, like I said, that was really the real reason we were there, because we weren't there to compete. So get into the demo line, and only had to wait like maybe 10 to 15 minutes probably in the line. Wow. And they would bring in groups of like 8 or 10 at a time into the Magnolia room, very exclusive. And you just kind of went through. You went to like first to the Samus Return station and played some Samus Returns, and then went further back into the room to play the Mario Odyssey demos. So yeah, I played both of them. I guess I'll start with Samus Returns. Basically, that we played on the regular, the new 3DS XL instead of the 2DS XL. I think because they
wanted to show off the 3D.
Yeah, it wasn't turned on by default on the systems, or maybe it's just the last person who played had it turned off. I don't know, but yeah, I popped it on for a minute, and it's continues to be good. Like I watched that trailer in 3D. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I had already sort of seen what it looks like in 3D, but it looks good. But especially in that kind of setting, like bright lights, although it wasn't that bright in the Magnolia room, as previously mentioned. But anyways, people around, noise, lights, all that stuff. Like I wasn't going to play in 3D, and I probably won't play the game in 3D either, just because headaches and, all the things we've talked about for 6 years about 3DS, 3D.
Yeah.
But it was so cool to play Samus Returns. It felt great. You start out and you're just, on Samus's ship, and you can go left or you can go right. And, very much like the beginning of Super Metroid and other Metroid games. So I'm sure there's like story sequence and stuff like that before it, but that was not part of the demo. So I just could immediately play. And there were like Nintendo handlers there that sort of made sure that you would get to the first checkpoint. But other than that, you were kind of able to just explore. So it was pretty fast paced, very combat heavy, and but felt really good. Samus is very tall and slender looking, and she feels pretty. I would say she feels nice and light, and if it's quick, quick sort of gameplay. So yeah, feels and looks really good. I was able to grab a couple different power-ups. I mean, I played for maybe like 10 minutes. So I feel like, some of the key power-ups are there like all right at the beginning because I was able to grab a couple just in those few minutes. So, I mean, I got the morph ball, of course, right away. And then I was able to get there's like a scan pulse, I think it's called, which allows you to sort of like scan the map nearby, and it will reveal sort of like hidden areas and things like that. So I was able to get that too. Able to actually sort of required to test out the well, Ryan, help me out here. What's it called? The sort of the melee parry type move there in Samus Returns.
Oh, like the counter attack.
The counter,
like where you have to time it, and yeah, I mean it's just a melee counter attack. I don't know if there's probably a term for it in the game, but I don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm. An open air-esque Nintendo specific name for that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Move. Yeah. So I was able to do that, or sort of required to do that. I mean, it seems like that's a pretty big element of the gameplay in Samus Returns, and it was training you to do that right from the start. I think that's going to be tricky to pick up initially, at least for people like myself who are not super great at like fast-paced action games and stuff. But by the time I was done with the demo, I was starting to get the hang of it pretty well. And it's a thing where it's like the enemy gives a tell, so when to press the button to do this counterattack. But then there's also a sound, I think, that you're kind of listening for too. So yeah, it's just getting the timing down, I guess, correctly. But seems like that's a pretty important element of the gameplay. So
cool. And Kevin is saying in the chat, melee counter.
Melee counter. Okay. Yeah. There we go. I think I used all of those words, just never together, right? So
yeah, in the proper order.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it just, I've played a couple, at least 2D traditional sort of Metroid games, and this one feels very much like it should, I would say. It looks great. I think we talked about it when the initial trailer came out. I would say it kind of looks very similar to Other M, art direction wise and like, style wise and stuff like that, which is fine because I think Other M looks good. It was a cool, maybe more, what's the word? The Prime games have like I would say like a traditional like sci-fi look to them, like they look like a sci-fi movie. They look like, your standard sci-fi. Aliens
inspired.
Yeah, not to say standard like it looks generic or anything, but it's just like that kind of art style, that kind of presentation. And I think Other M looked a little more stylized and exaggerated, I guess, like almost like more comic booky, or like it
kind of Other M kind of looked like a JRPG at
there
parts,
you go,
like where you'd go into like these areas with like tons of like plant life and stuff like a sci-fi RPG, like a Star Ocean or something. It is the vibe I got from Other M a lot.
Yeah, and as I'm thinking about it more, maybe what I'm trying to say here is that like the Prime games feel more influenced visually by sci-fi movies, and then Other M looks more like a video game, like it's like influenced by video gaming. And I get that vibe from Samus Returns too, which I think is a good thing. It's cool.
Nice.
I mean, love either look, but I feel like that's kind of the vibe. So
cool. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Were you able to hear the music at all?
Yeah, I could hear it. I could hear it. We didn't get headphones, but I could hear it. I would say it just kind of sounded like probably Prime or Other M.
Was it more like ambient, or do you know where they like remixing music from Metroid 2? You don't know.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I should have. You sent the wrong correspondent, man. Like,
Oh
God.
I know. You don't have time to worry about video game lore and aesthetics because you're so busy being the champion of all video games of the world. You're too busy training with your.
Well, I just spent like 5 minutes stumbling through trying to talk about what the game looks like. So I care about the aesthetics. I just didn't. I just didn't make note of that.
It's cool. I'm super curious because like I'm a huge Metroid 2 fan. I adore that game, and I don't care what anyone says. It's one of my favorite video games. It's flawed for sure. But I love it a lot, and I actually have like a lot of nostalgia and strong feelings for like the world and the music and everything. So I'm super curious like how much of that makes it over, which it's fine. If it's, if they do take it, they're obviously taking this in a different direction, and it doesn't need to be like total fan servicey, but I'm just curious. I think I'll like it either way, but yeah, I just want to know. I want to know if those weird like off key musical numbers are in there or not.
Yeah, no, I didn't pay close enough attention, I guess. So
cool.
Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of this is developed by Mercury Steam, and it's not being developed primarily by an in-house Nintendo team. So yeah, there was some hesitation or cause for concern there with people, but I've only played 10 minutes. I loved it. I thought it felt exactly how it should, and was very much what I was hoping it would be. And I think since I've played it, there's been some previews that have come out, right? And people seem to be universally satisfied with it, very happy, very excited. So I think we're going to be in for a really, really great game. And it's like a week and a half until it comes out.
Oh my God, it's so weird. Like really 11 soon, right? days.
11 days?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. Maybe 11 days. I don't know. It's soon. Yeah, it's a week and a half. Yeah, like, oh my God. It's just so crazy. Like, that rules.
Yeah, and so to kind of move on to the next game, when I was at the World Championships last weekend, one of the Nintendo reps pointed out that we were exactly 2 months away from Mario Odyssey at that point. So we are less than 2 months from Odyssey now. So that is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so is Mario Odyssey any good?
Mario Odyssey is good. Yes, it is.
Okay,
good.
Cool.
It is good. So the way the demo for that game worked is it was cool. Actually, you turn the corner and they had like these larger, because with the 3DS games, they really just had these like sort of round pillar tables that had like holes on the top for the cords to go down into, and then like you just would walk up and grab a 3DS, but you're really kind of just standing around this like little pillar table with 3 or 4 other people. Okay. So that's how that worked for the stations for the demos. But with Odyssey, you went around the corner and there were like large, TVs with these like cool, like red, sort of like, I don't know, like plastic, I don't know, backgrounds or whatever you call them, like stations basically that they had these TVs mounted to. And then on the floor, I noticed they had these like little speakers, like Bose like speakers down at the bottom, like by your feet, and there were probably speakers behind it and stuff too. But they had the sound pumping, not like super loud, but it was good. Like I guess they did a good job with like putting some some real effort into the presentation with these like little booths for Odyssey, good sound and look cool and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's like the same, if they're bringing those same kind of stations to, like PAX and stuff like that. I would assume they are. But yeah, so that was good. And we played TV mode, so it was docked and we played on the TV. That was our option there. And used the Joy-Con to control it, obviously. So I don't know, maybe they would use like the Pro Controller or something, but it was Joy-Con. You could choose between two worlds. I forget the name of the one was New Donk City. You could go into New Donk City and you could play that world. And the other one was the sort of like desert, icy desert, like cold kind of desert world that we've seen a ton of, with like the candy skulls and stuff like that. So that's the one I chose. Rich was next to me and he did the New Donk City world. That's what he was playing in.
Classic Rich.
What's it called?
Classic Rich.
Oh, Classic Rich. Okay. Yeah. Classic Rich. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Vintage.
Going to that new Donk City.
Vintage Richie.
Anyone listening could have predicted that.
Yeah. But the time with Odyssey was really cool, really fun, tantalizing, but it just was not enough. You know what I mean? Like, because as I'm sure all of our listeners have, heard and read at this point, it's big. You get into a level and there is a lot to do, and gave me a little bit of anxiety as I started to play the demo, because it's like, all right, well, which way do I go? Like, what do I try to do now? Because it just felt like there was so much to do, and so much to try, and I didn't have a lot of time. So, but I was able to get, I think, 2 moons in the time that I played, which was I felt pretty good. And like that was one of the big differences between this game and something like Mario 64 is, you dropped into this pretty large world level, and rather than like having a goal for obtaining 1 star or shine or whatever, you're going to collect multiple moons in the world that you're playing in, and it's not going to pull you out and sort of reset the level when you do that. You're just more of an open, continuous type thing. So, but it looked gorgeous. I got to do a little bit of everything. One of the first things I did was like, can I triple jump? Like, will this feel exactly how it should? And by golly, it did. It's like very much the traditional Mario controls. I did, the butt stomps and triple jumps, and I did the thing where you hold back on the stick and do the backflip to get higher up, and all that. So it feels exactly like Mario 3D platformers do, and I don't think anybody was concerned that it wouldn't, but it certainly does. So that was good. And let's see what else. Throwing Cappy. I was able to, of course, throw Cappy, and you could do that with a button press, or you could kind of like push the Joy-Con forward, like you can do it gesture based. I'm not really seeing the benefit of doing it gesture based. Like I'm not really sure why I would want to do that, but you can, especially considering that I might be playing a lot of this in handheld mode. Like I'm not going to probably want to like thrust my whole switch forward every time I want to throw the hat. So I felt like that was a little bit of I'm almost surprised they even put that in there, but you can do it if you want to. I tried to do the throw the hat out and then run and jump to it, so you could kind of do like a double jump type thing. I pulled that off once, but I could not do that reliably, so that's gonna take some practice on my part. But I was able to go into a wall and do the 2D section, like Link Between Worlds, classic Mario.
Oh, nice. How did that play?
It was good. It played exactly as you would expect it to. Just very, just felt like Super Mario Brothers on the NES, basically. So
good. That game's good.
Yeah, I think that's a good game. Yeah. And let's see what else. I mean, I think a big takeaway too is I went into the little sort of like town area, but then there was also this tower like way off in the distance. I think there were at least 3 different like, major sections of this open area where I was, and like I saw something off in the distance, and I could run over to it, but there was a fair amount of not empty space, but like relatively empty space between them. And so it definitely felt like a very like sort of large world that you could run off and find things in different directions, and you would have to do that. So it almost felt like smaller like 3D Mario like levels or level areas that were all placed in like one open space, so yeah, it's just a different approach to like the 3D Mario world design and layout and stuff.
Nice.
Was not able to, again, I don't know the correct Nintendo terminology, and I know they don't want you to put it this way, but I was not able to possess anybody. I'm not sure if I had that power yet, or if that was part of this demo, or how to do it, but that did not happen. So, but yeah, it was over sooner than I would have liked, but it's again, like, no concerns at all. Nothing felt weird. Nothing was confusing. Nothing felt like off-putting in any way. It seems like it's going to be an excellent Mario game, and it's cool that it's definitely a little bit different approach to it from previous ones. So, but for sure, it felt like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, not like 3D World, or even Galaxy, because it's just bigger, more open.
Nice. Well, that's something to be very excited about. Like, it's crazy getting a Metroid game in September and a new 3D Mario in October.
Yeah.
That rules.
Yep.
And we've already got like Zelda.
Yeah.
Like, it's a heck of a year.
And last thing, I did get my pin, my Nintendo pin.
Cool.
And I got we got Samus Returns and Mario Odyssey posters as well. So you got one of each for playing the game. And man, they look really nice. And they have those Nintendo World Championship, gold logos at the bottom too. So it's just pretty sweet. Yeah, really good event.
That is awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Yep.
That rules.
So, for me, it's like that was maybe an hour and a half drive, something like that. But I think it's worth it, like when these Nintendo events pop up, I feel like I don't live in Chicago, but it's worth making the trip to Chicago to be able to do this stuff.
Cool. All right. Well, you don't need to go to Chicago to play this next game that we're going to talk about. You can download it right on your Nintendo Switch. And that is Sonic Mania. It's been out for a few weeks now. It's kind of old news, but we are going to talk about it anyways because it's good. And we like Sonic. So I have finished the game. Not finished. I haven't gotten all of the Chaos Emeralds and all the secrets and unlockables and stuff, but I have finished the game, as in finished all the stages and the last boss. So I'm just gonna give like a few just kind of initial thoughts and stuff. Well, first of all, I got the collector's edition, and it's a little bit more ridiculous than I expected. It's really big. The box is huge. The box is really cool. It is way too cool to throw out. And the Sonic statue in it is really cool. It's so big. I really was not expecting it to be this big. So I kind of just have it sitting on the floor right now, and I'm a little bit at a loss of what to do with it because I don't even have shelf space for it.
What about
Um,
the retro game grotto or whatever? Like, no room for it in there?
yeah, no, that's full. Like
Oh.
it's full of like consoles and stuff, and like this thing's like way big. um,
I heard that it's actually bigger. It's so the base of it is a Sega Genesis, right?
yeah,
But I heard it's bigger than an actual Sega
it
Genesis.
is. It is. And then there's like a giant Sonic on it, and I love it. Like I want to have it out and displayed, but I literally have nowhere to put it except on the floor.
Do you have the batteries in it?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. You can press the on switch and it says Sega, which is very wonderful. I did it about 15 times. Um, so that's cool. But you also get like this, like a replica cartridge that when you can like pull out the chip part of it and there's like a ring in there, which is cool. I have that like setting out on the shelf by my Genesis games. So it's a cool collector's edition. It is just like I just don't know what to do about it because it's
So
so
much.
big.
Yeah.
But
Well, maybe another trip to IKEA.
I don't even have room for shelves. Like, and especially after all this Star Wars business,
Yeah.
like I got, oh my god, it's a tough life,
Mm.
for sure. But so that's that. I did get the collector's edition for Switch. So I have been playing it on Switch. I've played it 100% of the time in handheld mode, and man, it is gorgeous on the Switch's screen. It looks amazing, and being able to have it like so kind of close to my face, I'm able to just see like there are just so many details in the levels. Like it is just, I don't know. Like I think the original Sonic trilogy and Knuckles on Genesis are like some of the most beautiful video games ever made. In my opinion, like they still hold up. They still look just so cool. And yeah, I think like, the art team on Mania did such a good job, carrying that style over and, making it really look like probably more like a Sega CD game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even Saturn. But it keeps, it doesn't look like Sonic 4. I should say, like it's not just like an HDified 2D game that looks kind of weird. Like this is like straight up like it's probably a little beyond what the Genesis could do, definitely. Especially, considering it's in like widescreen and there's like not really any frame rate drops or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
but
widescreen thing is really nice. Like the fact that
yeah,
it doesn't look like you said, it doesn't look like so many games that are releasing now, which is like, well, we'll take the classic look and then we'll do a shiny HD version of it. Like it looks
mhm.
like a classic game, but it's in widescreen. So that's a really nice feature because usually you're gonna get one or the other, right? You're gonna get like a new look in widescreen, or you're gonna get the original look. But unless you're a monster, you're going to maintain the original like aspect ratio of it. You know what I mean? So it's cool to have, like the combo of both of those things, like the original look and feel. But with that 16:9 aspect ratio, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then the music I think has been really spot on. Feels really good.
So the way the music works, if I understand this correctly, is that the first half of a level, the first stage is like the original music, and then the second stage is like remixed or kind of like new versions of the music for that level.
Essentially for the classic levels, yeah.
Yeah.
But then like on like the new levels and stuff, they're completely original compositions, but still, kind of have that Genesis feel to them.
The music is amazing. Like the whole thing, like you were talking about the look of the game and stuff, and like I also think Sonic is gorgeous. I love the the look of Sonic, but it's even more than just the look. It's the overall like 90s, like early 90s kind of like feel of Sonic the Hedgehog. And the music is a huge part of that. It's like this like, new jazz type of like music. Like it's so good. And it's just, again, like with a lot of these like retro remakes and stuff that we get, like either remakes or re-releases or whatever, like of course you're getting like the 8 and 16-bit style sound. I mean, this is like 16-bit style sound, I guess, or like maybe Sega CD probably style sound, but it's got this like jazz kind of vibe to it that you don't get with most of these games, so it's a different kind of flavor, and it's just so 90s, and the colors are so 90s, and yeah, it's really cool in that regard. And I just love the fact that they've kept that element of it pretty much as it was, instead of trying to update that in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going into this game, I was sort of expecting it, like the level design, the power-ups, everything to be kind of I don't know. I was just expecting like everything to be kind of based off like Sonic 1 and 2, but in reality, like mechanically, it's actually I feel like the game is like way more informed by like Sonic CD and Sonic 3 and Knuckles than those original two games. Which, it's a lot of like slight variations in the power-ups and the level design and stuff, but I feel like those were definitely like those games were like the later 16-bit games were definitely like the bigger influences. And you see that, like I said, in the power-ups, but also in just a lot of like the little like mechanics and hooks in the level, hanging from things and operating the way you operate switches and stuff like that. It's just a lot of Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic CD, which I feel like are kind of I wouldn't say underappreciated games in the series, but especially Sonic CD, I think is not one that as many people played. And I think Sonic 3 and Knuckles kind of came towards the end of the Genesis's lifespan, and I feel like maybe some people kind of missed out on those because that was when the momentum had totally swung back to SNES and like Donkey Kong Country, and the PlayStation, Saturn, and N64 were all about to come out. So so I feel like a lot of people maybe kind of slept on those games, but they actually introduced some like really cool mechanics and stuff.
I mean, I kind of did, and I was a Genesis owner and major Sonic guy in the early to mid 90s, like Sonic 1, Sonic 2. I think 2 of the Game Gear games I had, like I played a ton of Sonic, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Yeah, Puya Puya.
Yeah, and Sonic Spinball too.
Not so much that.
Oh yeah, I played a ton of Sonic Spinball. I mean, it's not that good, but I played a lot of it. So, I had played so much Sonic, and he was kind of my my favorite video game, property at that time. But I didn't really play Sonic 3 very much, and I don't think I ever did like the and Knuckles thing. So yeah, it was for me, like even somebody who's a huge Sonic guy, like for sure. And I played Sonic CD like a couple of years ago on my PS3, but I definitely didn't have a Sonic CD to play, or a Sega CD to play that back then. So
yeah, so I think it's cool that they used a lot of like inspiration from that. Even I also get that in the music too, on like the newer stages. Like it's more of the like you had said, like the like jazz, like I don't know, Mamba style stuff that comes in. It's less of like the the dreams come true electronic pop, and yeah, some of those other Mediterranean influences, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. This is
Yeah,
just how it feels in my head.
yeah, maybe,
'Cause
maybe, but like also like jazz, but then also like almost even like art 90s R&B type stuff, like more upbeat, like
yeah,
90s R&B. So it's just really, it
well,
just reminds me of like that era of music, you know?
and that makes sense when you think about like how, there's the whole story and
The king of pop.
yeah, about Michael Jackson and Michael Jackson collaborators doing
Yeah.
music for Sonic 3. And then like, with Sonic CD, it's a lot of there's a lot of like vocal elements and stuff in there, which also kind of manifest in Mania. And it's really cool. It kind of, to me it feels like if it was surprising in the way like if like Mega Man 9 and 10, instead of being like mostly informed by Mega Man 2, they were like, we are going hard on Mega Man 6
Mm-hmm.
for Mega Man 9 and 10. Like we're bringing in the jetpack and stuff. Like that's kind of how this feels, and I think it's cool. It's surprising in a way.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I love Mega Man 9 and 10, but in terms of Sonic, like thinking about this, like it would almost be, to me, it would communicate if they based it on Sonic 1 and 2 more so than like Sonic CD, for instance. To me, that would almost kind of communicate like what we're attempting to do is play on people's nostalgia, and we're going to make we're going to make a new Sonic based on the one that was most popular. And instead, I think what this communicates is we're going to go back to, that era of Sonic the Hedgehog games, but we are going to make the best possible new version of that we can, So I just think it makes the most sense because it's not like the difference between like, say, Super Mario Brothers on NES and then like Super Mario World on Super Nintendo. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's they all look pretty similar. They all feel like part of the same like era of Sonic. Not quite the same era because the Sega CD game is like, it's got a lot of elements that really could not have been part of the Genesis games. But you know what I'm saying? Like visually
Mm-hmm.
and like presentation wise, it feels like one kind of fluid like progression of games in the same kind of part of the Sonic, history.
Mm-hmm.
So to really stick closely to Sonic 1 or 2, I think that would be like we're just grabbing the thing people like and we'll make it like that, versus this feels like we are going to do the best possible version of this style of Sonic game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was a very noble ambition. I feel so yeah. So anyway, like before we get into the next part, I just want to say I love Sonic Mania.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do feel like they had, in some ways, like I feel like their vision was very clear. And I mean, I think maybe overall their vision was clear in what they wanted to make, which was like, this is a, total throwback to this one specific era of Sonic. And I think they were successful in that. But I feel like there are some really weird holdovers in the game that they almost stuck too hard to trying to recreate that experience, where there's some things that just like don't really feel necessary in 2017. And I feel like Sonic Mania is a game with some very uneven difficulty. Typically in like the older Sonic games, I feel like maybe there's a few difficulty spikes, but generally speaking, like I feel like the difficulty curve kind of ramps up at a predictable rate.
Mm-hmm.
But with Sonic Mania, there's just some like parts where like, and I'm like a pretty hardcore Sonic fan. Like I've played through all of these original games multiple times. And like, I don't know, like I'm okay at Sonic games. I'm definitely not the best. I'm definitely, they're not easy for me, any of the games in the series. And you know, on like Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 on 3DS, like I definitely utilize save states and stuff, like revisiting those, and have no qualms about that. But, you know, I've beat those games back in the day on the consoles. Like I feel competent enough, but there were just some spikes where occasionally I'd be like, oh my God, why is like this part like suddenly so hard? And uh, I think a huge bummer about like what I was saying with like holdovers from the original games is they kind of kept with the same lives and continues system as the original games. So you're essentially you're playing two acts, Act One and Act Two, and the stages are longer. The stages are definitely longer than Sonic 1 and 2 stages. Sonic 3 and Knuckles actually had some pretty long stages in them, but I would say these are even bigger and longer. And that creates two problems. For one, you know, it's taking you on average, like, I don't know, 4 to 7 minutes to complete each stage typically. So when you have to replay a pair of stages because you died at the boss in Act 2, you know, that's like 15 minutes each time to kind of get back to that point, which is cool the first couple of times because, like I said, the stages are really big. So you're able to find different paths and really kind of appreciate the stage design. So I like it in that way. But when after you've done it a few times, it just sort of becomes annoying. Especially because some of the bosses, there's like some really weird ways that you can die at them. Like I'm thinking in particular like the Oil Ocean Zone. The boss at the end of Act 2 there, like sometimes you're fine if you are like in the muck. Sometimes you'll just randomly die when you're fighting that boss. And that was one that I had to fight a few times over. And it was kind of a bummer because I really don't enjoy Act 2 of Oil Ocean Zone in Sonic Mania. So that was one I like had to keep doing over and over again. I don't know, probably had to run through those stages 3 or 4 times. And that really felt like a chore at that point.
Yeah.
And that's a bummer, but also they, for some reason, kept the really absurd time limit. And the way that like the time limit carries over. So like basically if you take longer than 10 minutes to complete a level, you lose a life. And they kept that in, which seems so arbitrary, and like that is just such a like, I don't know, like a throwback to like arcade games of like the mid 80s. Like why does that even exist? Why did that even exist in, you know, games in the early 90s on that were designed for console? And like let alone like why does it exist in a 2017 game? So
yeah, I mean they definitely I would say seem to have erred on the side of being authentic to the original sort of games and like game experience and stuff. There's not that much that's like, I'm really struggling to think of really anything where they were like, let's bring like 2017 into this game, like in terms of the gameplay, you know. I don't know, am I missing? Like, I can't think of anything where they were like, oh, you know, we're going to take the old Sonic formula, but update it with new, like, you know, the contemporary, like gameplay expectations. Like it just plays like a Sonic game. I mean,
yeah. And like, I guess
that's arguably not a good thing, but that's, I think, what their ethos were going into this is like,
sure.
This is how we're going to do it.
And I kind of like, I kind of wish they would have considered their audience a little bit. we're like, okay, so the people who are really stoked about this game are people who grew up with Sonic, so they're probably in like their 30s now. They probably don't have a ton of time to play video games. They probably don't want to like be frustrated replaying stuff over and over again because they're not kids who can just sit in front of a TV for 10 hours on a Saturday. And just play this over and over again. So we want to have some kind of concessions for those players in the same way I think stuff like, the Sega 3D classics do, where they're like, yeah, you're nostalgic, you still love video games, you want to play these games because you love them, but you're also like a grown-up who has half an hour maybe to play video games a day. Or every 2 days or every 3 days. Like, you can't just like sit and redo stuff for hours and hours. And, I wish that they would have, just make a 1991 mode in there that has all that old stuff, but then also make a mode that like, if you die at a boss, you just get to keep fighting the boss over and over again. I'm not even saying like save states or anything. Like, don't throw off the balance of your game or anything, but just don't make me replay like all the levels again. Like, I mean,
yeah, that would be nice. I kind of feel like I definitely share your complaints. I think to me, if they would have made each act like 25%, maybe like 20% shorter than they are, that would help a lot. And then I would actually even be fine with if you die at a boss, because when you die at a boss, there's always like a checkpoint like right next to when you go to fight the boss, right? So like if you die at a boss, you get a couple chances at defeating that boss before, you have to continue or whatever.
Unless you're on your last life.
Well, right, if you're on your last life, yeah. But like, I would be okay if it just started you at the beginning of Act 2 if you had to continue, but it starts you at the beginning of Act 1. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a ton to go back and do. But yeah, to me, and I hear your point about like, at first it not being too bad because you can play through all these levels in a lot of different ways. That's kind of how Sonic 2D levels work. Is like you could take the high path or the low path or any combination of those things where you end up going different routes. So it's cool to be able to try all these different routes. But I don't like the ideology of almost like forcing the player to do that. I mean, they're not forcing you to do it because you could just play through once, and if you're good enough, you wouldn't have to keep replaying.
Right.
But like to me, make them a little shorter. Add some concessions like we've been talking about, and then I would be done with Sonic Mania already, and I'd be like interested in like going back and playing through the levels more because they wouldn't take very long to play through. And it's not like I want it to be super easy or something. I actually don't really mind the difficulty too much, except for that there are places where it gets just frustrating and slows down my progress. So like for instance, I played the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 worlds levels and never died and like was enjoying myself, or at least never had to continue. I probably died, a few times, but like I had no problems. And then I got to, I think it was the 5th one. I can't remember which one it is, but it's the one with the boss where it's like you're going up vertically and there's spikes on either side of the wall and you have to like bounce the boss into those spikes.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of trouble with that boss. And it just really slowed down my progress with the game where like for like, because I wasn't playing like hours a day. I was playing like 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. There's a couple days where I was stuck on that level. And then when I got to the next one, it was like no problem for like 2 more levels. You know what I mean? So it was like an uneven difficulty where I'm zipping through the levels and not having an issue. And that's where I think this game should be. You should be able to zip through these levels. And I'm not talking about the moment-to-moment gameplay where, you have some people who are like, well, Sonic should always be fast, and if it ever slows you down, that's bad Sonic. No, that's not bad Sonic.
Nope.
That's not what I mean. But what I mean is like they should be 5 minutes or less for each act. And you should feel like, man, you are just cruising right through this game. I think that's like world to world to world. Like I feel like that's when it's in its sweet spot. And then if you're going to have some difficult levels, like where I'm really going to be sort of, knocking my head against the wall trying to get through them, those should be at the end of the game. You know what I mean? Is how I feel about it. Because like, smooth experience, difficult level, then a couple more smooth experiences, another difficult level. It just kind of like and it just doesn't feel like even progression, I guess, as you already mentioned. So that's where like my sort of frustration with it is. I like the fact that it doesn't really try to do anything. Like the time limit hasn't been a problem for me yet. I guess I haven't played through the whole game, so maybe it will become a problem. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with all of it, except for I just feel like there was like some fine tuning that could have been done in terms of, you know, just more even progression of difficulty, and then don't bring me back all the way to Act 1. At least just bring me back to Act 2, and then I think I'd be like almost complaint free in terms of the design of the overall experience.
Yeah, and I think you made a really good point about like, you know, something I love about the original Sonic games is they're very, very replayable. And it's because, like, especially with Sonic 1 and 2, like, the acts are, you know, maybe 1.5 to 4 minutes typically. Like I said, Sonic 3, Sonic CD, Knuckles, like those started getting a little bit longer, and I think kind of to the detriment of those games. But yeah, I like the short acts. I like, you know, just being able to revisit the worlds and stuff. And I think with Sonic Mania, like there are some levels I don't really ever want to play again, and that's kind of a bummer.
Right, exactly. So here's my thing now. This is the other thing I was going to mention in terms of like, oh, well, you can go through these levels in a bunch of different ways. So maybe they're trying to kind of force you to do that, or incentivizing you to do that by putting you back to the beginning of the world. What I would like to see, and maybe you can tell me if this is part of the game or not, is upon completion, getting a level select and or a level select code. Because to me, it's like once I played through the game, yeah, it would be great, especially on Switch, which is a handheld, to be able to just jump into any level. You know, what's the like, oh my God, the first one that's kind of like Casino Night Zone, but it's like it's got like the Art Deco / like early, you know, 20th century film, like Studiopolis is so cool.
It's so good.
It's amazing. Studiopolis is so good. So when I finish this game, you know, 2, 3, 4 months from now, when I'm not playing Sonic Mania anymore, if I'm just like, you know what would be really awesome right now is some hot Studiopolis action.
Yeah.
Am I able to just pull up Studiopolis and play it after I finish the game, or do you know?
As is the case with early Sonic games, there is a debug level select.
Okay.
Code. It's actually it's pretty simple to do.
Okay.
So, yeah, I checked that out.
And I can do that even before I finish the game then, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So, I saw it on like IGN or somewhere. It's just like holding 2 buttons and pressing start at the beginning.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my one last thing I want to say about this game is the new levels are really good. I think another way to, I don't want to say fix this game, but to kind of lessen some of the issues I have with it, I should say. Because I think the game overall is maybe a little too long. And I think part of that is because the levels are too long, but also I think part of it is like there's too many levels. And I think the new levels are the highlight for me. And I kind of wish they just didn't do like the, you know, here's a, you know, an original version of this old level, and then here's a like remixed version of this old level, because that kind of was already done in Generations, and I thought it was cool then, but it's kind of like doing that again. And, you know, I feel like I can, like, if I want to play those old Sonic games and those old levels, like I can. And I don't think like anything in like the Mania mechanics or anything about it like really makes those levels better. Like I don't think playing Green Hill Zone or Chemical Plant Zone in Mania is any better than playing those levels on the Genesis or in Generations.
I was waiting to see if you were going to do this. But let's clarify your argument here, because I think what you're saying is that you still want the new Green Hill Zone level in Sonic Mania. You just don't want the. Oh, you are one of these guys.
Yeah.
I can't handle this. Like, I never want to play a Sonic game that doesn't start with Green Hill Zone. It needs to start with Green Hill Zone every time. Every time it needs to. And if it's not the original Green Hill Zone and it's a totally new stage like set in Green Hill Zone, that's fine. But I'm not starting a Sonic game without Green Hill Zone.
Okay, so you're never gonna start Sonic 2 with like whatever Spring Hill Zone or whatever the.
That's the same thing. I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah.
No, sure. Like, no. I mean, have a Green Hill Zone inspired start. I'm totally cool with that. Like in the same way, like the new Super Mario Brothers games start with like a variation on 1-1 or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that. But I think like the remixing like old stages, like that doesn't feel necessary to me at this point. And like I think I hope there's a Mania 2, and I hope they really like have confidence in their own level creation, because it's really good and there's a lot of like really interesting and new and exciting ideas in the new levels. But I think just go all in on that, because like this is a super talented team that like really gets Sonic, and they can totally make like their own game. Like it would be like if like Mega Man 9 and 10 were like, you know, if half the bosses were bosses from Mega Man 2 and like those stages, like it's not necessary. Like,
yeah,
do your new thing. And I think maybe that's what I hope to see from Mania. I don't know if that's what the rest of the audience wants, or if they want like, you know, if they just want to play stages they've already played again. But that's what I would like to see. And I think that would, you know, condense the game into something like tighter, and maybe they could, with that, you know, balance the difficulty a little bit better, because I think, you know, part of those like difficulty spikes are like the weird insertions of these other stages that come from all these different games. Yeah, I feel like just make your own Sonic game.
Yeah, I think that the stages need to be 2 acts, though. So I think they would have to do 2 new, like, you know what I mean? I don't know that you said it would condense the game. I don't know that it would really condense the game unless they did like 1 act versions of these worlds. And I'm not. I don't think I'm.
No. I think just all I'm saying is like take Sonic Mania, the game it is now, take out all the levels that were from other Sonic games, and just have the new levels in there. That's enough for like a really good game.
But a lot of these levels are like the first act is an original, and then the second act is new, right? Like, I mean, it's a
but that's what I'm saying. Like, take out the remix acts as well. Like, don't do your chemical plant zone.
That doesn't work though, because then we don't have Green Hill Zone.
Okay.
No, not okay. There's bad people on the internet who are saying like, when this game came out, like, we've had enough Green Hill Zone, we don't want any more of it. Those people are bad and they're wrong, and you're one of them. So
I guess so. But
I'm actually kind of
8,000 ways to play Green Hill Zone.
Not on your Switch.
That's true. Well, get that virtual console going, and then, you know, then we don't have to worry about that. Sega, make a Genesis collection for Switch.
No, I'm still gonna be worried. But well, yeah, that would be awesome. But no. I was just gonna say too that I'm a little, I guess, like, I feel anti-consumer saying this, and like I'm bad and wrong for saying this, but like I think they should have capped it at 10 levels, and then like, you know, it would be awesome if like 2017 saw Sonic Mania 10 levels, $20, and then 2018 saw Sonic Mania 2 10 levels, $20, you know, because what are there, like 13, 14 levels in this game or something like that?
Yeah,
there's a lot, and I feel like
it's a little bit too much. It's too much of a good thing.
I don't know if they knew. I mean, obviously they didn't know for sure how successful it would be. I feel like it's been a huge hit, so hopefully that means we get a second one. But yeah, I would prefer to have 2 smaller Sonic Mania games released, you know, not too far apart from one another, like a year apart from one another, than to have one like larger Sonic Mania game. So maybe we'll get another 15 level Sonic Mania in a year and a half or something, and I mean that's fine too. But yeah, I think a little shorter would be better.
Yeah. Yep.
I love the game though. It's
do
going to
too.
be high on my favorite game of the year list. You know, like it's not going to be like in the running for like this is one of my top 2 or 3 best games released in 2017. But like it'll definitely be in my my favorite games released.
For sure. Yeah, it's awesome. It's a huge accomplishment. I'm like, this team is so good. They just totally get Sonic, and I want them to I want to just keep reiterating that, so that like they have the confidence to just go, because the best stages are when they just go totally weird, and like these brand new mechanics that you're like, wow, we've never seen that in a Sonic game, and it totally fits and it totally works. Like they get it so much. That's when I think the game is at its best. And I want them to like really focus on tightening that up instead of spending time just recreating stuff we played 25 years ago.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, Sonic Mania, even if I don't know if I can recommend this to people who aren't Sonic fans. I don't know if I can go that far. Like something like Breath of the Wild, I can be like, yeah, even if you don't like any Zelda game up to this point, like play Breath of the Wild. This one, I don't know. I feel like you do have to have kind of that appreciation and nostalgia to some degree, but I think also if you just like platformers and maybe you've just never really given Sonic a chance, I think it's a great pickup on Switch, but you'll get more out of it, I think, if you're like an old school fan or someone who's at least just a fan of like this era.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But like I would recommend Sonic 1 and 2, really, Sonic, any of the 16-bit like Sonic games. I would recommend to anybody. And I feel like the people who don't like those games, I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I feel like a lot of times the problem is people go into Sonic with this misconception about what it's supposed to be. Like, I really feel like a lot of people that don't like the original Sonic games are like, oh, it's not fast enough. It slows me down all the time. You know what I mean? That seems to be like a huge thing. And like, I don't know. I feel like this game is a really good platformer, like if you like good platformers and you have not decided already that like Sonic is supposed to be a certain thing, then I think anybody's going to like this. That's how of course, if you're a Sonic fan, like I played it, it's hard for me to divorce myself from the fact that when I was 8 years old, like this was like my favorite game series, so I can never be an objective voice on this, but yeah, I can't imagine somebody who likes like 2D platformers not liking Sonic unless, like I said, there's like some kind of, because the marketing and like the arguments about which one is better, Sonic or Mario, like it just led to all these ideas and arguments and like perspectives on Sonic that I just don't think are quite right. Like I said, if you want to, you're of course able to have whatever opinion you want on it, but like I think just if you're not into Sonic, like take yourself out of that mindset. Like if it's not going fast all the time, it's not good, because that's not the case. And this is, I think, one of the best Sonic games I've played. So really almost anybody I think should love it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the other thing is if you are like a hardcore Nintendo fan and you are expecting Sonic to be Mario,
that's true
I
too.
feel like that's another big misconception that leads to a lot of bad feelings, because you are not getting Mario. You're getting a game that controls much, much different, with totally different level designs, totally different goals. Yeah, just because they're within the same like genre umbrella does not mean they're anything alike.
Yes, but I do think, yes, that's absolutely 100% true. But I do think that they are both, I mean, I don't really want to say this out loud. I mean, like Mario is definitely like, I think a better, like Mario is just like the best game ever. You know what I mean? It's like the best game series ever, the best mechanics ever. It's the best thing ever. Mario is the best thing ever. But like, I feel like Mario and Sonic are at a place at the top of like 2D platforming that, you know, there's a million 2D platformers in the 80s and 90s. And I don't think there's very many that are at the level that Sonic is at as a series and as like a gameplay concept and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't feel like Mario, but it does feel like better than most 2D platformers, which is something it shares with Mario. You know, you play a Mario game, you're like, this feels better than almost any platformer I've ever played, you know? And I think Sonic is right up there in terms of like, there are few platformers that can compete with just the originality, the fun, the gameplay experience, all that stuff of Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, it's, you know, it is, it's an incredible series. And I think it deserves to be talked about as one of the absolute peaks of 2D platforming.
Yeah, and there's nothing that else that feels like Sonic.
That's what yes, exactly. And that's one of the reasons, because it's not like this generic Mario ripoff thing, or like, it's not an almost Mario. It is its own thing, and what it is really, really cool.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know what Sonic the Hedgehog was, I guess, like, I'm here to tell you, but no, I don't know. It's just, yeah, you gotta play it.
Yep. Sega Fun Club podcast, breaking down what is Sonic the Hedgehog.
We never did a 0.5 episode about like old Sonic games, of any old Sonic game, did we? Like,
no, we talked about that. That can still come one of these days.
Point five is.
I want to do an 8-bit Sonic episode. I want to talk about those,
the Game Gear Master System
games, because those I think are super, super interesting, and no one talks about those. But yeah, let's go ahead and just wrap up this episode. Yep. You can find us, as always, NintendoFunClubPodcast.com. Sorry for the delays on episodes, video posting, and stuff. I think that's just kind of the reality right now. I don't have much time to play video games. I still haven't picked up Mario plus Rabbids, even though I've heard like really, really good things about it. I barely have time to play video games. I definitely don't have time to make videos or write about video games. Sorry, we'll keep doing the podcast, but that's kind of it right now, because life is busy, and also we are doing so much Star Wars stuff at the moment. It's a saga film year. Force Friday just happened. That's kind of where our heads, wallets, and time is at. That's
true. That is true. But then again, like, I could have, I mean, this episode was pretty full with stuff to talk about, but otherwise I could have talked about Super Star Wars as well, because I was playing that and actually finished it for the first time. So that was cool. So who knows, maybe I'll talk about that series of games here. We've done a show about that for Nintendo Fun Club too, but I was never a accomplished Super Star Wars guy who beat it guy, like when we talked about it before. So
well, and cool. Now you're the world champion of video games.
That's I mean,
of course
that's one of the things Nintendo asked me before they decided to fly me out to New York City next month.
Before you were crowned with the crown you're wearing right now. Cool. So if you do like Star Wars, there's going to be a whole lot of Star Wars from us, at least until the end of December. So head over to blockaderunnerpodcast.com.
You got it.
Yeah. And follow Blockade Run on Twitter.
You got it.
Awesome. Also, we're on Instagram and all these other things that I don't actually use. But
YouTube, if you want to see some Super Star Wars gameplay, if I ever post it.
I
have 3 videos done, edited, except for I need to record the commentary. So they've been sitting on my computer for over a week.
Well, I posted some videos of my cats playing with an electronic Porg, which is very good content on the YouTube channel.
Ryan, that sizzle you just did, that PR you just did, very effective. My watch just buzzed because I have a new follower Blockade Runner has a new follower on Twitter, and it's Kevin, who's been watching and listening to the show. So
nice,
dude,
nice.
You are a really good hype man.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So yeah, check that out. I'm on Twitter, mostly posting Star Wars stuff these days, at Brawn Dwarf, BRAWNDWARF. And how about yourself?
I am on
John?
Twitter. I'm on Twitter, Arcade Ghost. And yeah, I'm excited coming. I mean, I'm super excited about all the Star Wars stuff we're talking about, but I mean, we have a busy month coming up with Nintendo Fun Club too, I think. I'm just being Nintendo fans because we've got Metroid in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that, we've got the SNES Classics. So,
which we won't be able to get.
Excited as I am about all the Star Wars stuff, and I am very excited about Star Wars stuff. I am. I think September is going to be a pretty good month for us, Ryan, and we are going to get Super Nintendo Classics, and we might even get European ones. So, I have not gotten a cancellation email yet. Have you?
No.
Okay. So,
but I do not have an American SNES Classic pre-order.
I think we're gonna be able to get one in the store that day. We're gonna line up about 4 hours early. We're gonna get one.
Yeah, that's not something I can do. So yeah, but also Pokemon Gold and Silver coming to the 3DS eShop this month as well, which is super exciting. Because those are considered by some to be the high points in the Pokemon series. So there's definitely going to be a lot to play. And like I said, I still think I want to get Mario plus Rabbids. I really just want to hear the soundtrack, I think, is kind of where I'm at with it.
And yeah. Well, I've heard some good things. Rich, who's been a constant fixture on this episode of the show. Rich has Mario Rabbids. Another one of my coworkers, Kelsey, has Mario Rabbids. So I'm hearing very good things. Like Rich was really he was like, it's awesome. So I'm hearing good things.
Yeah.
I'm not getting it though, because as you've been saying, like time is not a thing I have a lot of right now. So
no,
I really just want to be playing more Breath of the Wild and Splatoon 2 and Sonic Mania if I get the time. So
yeah,
that's what I'm going to stick with for now. But don't forget too, Ryan, as we're talking about the future here, don't forget that next month is October, and so we're going to continue our long tradition of the Nintendo Fun Club Halloween Game of the Year. So that's coming up too.
Can we announce what that is? Did we actually decide?
I was going to say I don't remember what it is. So what is it?
I said Resident Evil 2 on Nintendo 64.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Because that's
I've never played that. I mean, played a few hours.
I hadn't either, and I just it's like actually super cheap.
Okay.
You can get a cart for like less than $15.
Let's do it.
And I never played this version of it, and I've heard it's pretty interesting, and there's some like N64 exclusive features to it. So yeah. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
I have to go though, because one of my kids is in the other room screaming like they're in like a zombie overrun Raccoon City mansion right now or something.
Okay. Well, that's a good stopping point then. So thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.